Welcome to the TGF Postfight Show. I am Jason Langendorf, the Good Fights editor, and I'm joined by my good friend Lucas Ketelle and your good friend Lucas Ketelle. We've just gotten finished watching the Lamont Roach Jr. William Zepeda lightweight title fight. The main event made up for some of the snooze fest that led up to it, which was a nice turnaround. But what were your initial impressions overall of the card, Lukey?
Well, I mean, I think it's a net positive, that we're getting these network shows, but the pacing is atrocious. And we always bring up Zuffa, and the thing with Zuffa is we go fight, 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 and we're done. And I don't know who these talking head segments are for. It's nice to see Crawford. I like Bradley. Porter's fine enough as it is, but I'm not really sure who this is for because I don't need to go back to the desk and get kind of like somewhat reasonable analysis for every single fight. It just feels like it's a very slow production. It's like 1 o'clock East Coast, 10 o'clock West Coast. I'm not really sure who wants that. I think as fight fans, we want a faster product. So my initial reaction was it was a really good fight card. The main event crowned a really good champion, interesting champion. Muratalla we'll get into. But the pacing of the show was kind of the story for me. That if they don't get the right fights, it's just going to go way too long.
Yeah, and I think there's a difference between watching some of these pregame and halftime shows on, say, an NFL Sunday, where there's a finite amount of time um, that is either in during the lead up or in between halves, and what else are you going to do? And so then you can kind of sit and enjoy those personalities. With this, it just drags out the night, and particularly when those first few fights weren't altogether scintillating. It's like, come on, let's get on with it. And then the production value, I don't know how it was on everybody else's end, but I know the interstitials where they brought in Porter and Bradley and Crawford during the fights, uh, the sound wasn't there. So they're bringing these guys in to comment during the fight, and we don't even get to hear them. And we can complain a lot about the zone and what they're charging us and the pacing and all that. I think at the end of the day or at the end of the night, we're fine as long as the fights pay off. And I think tonight was kind of a Roach Zepeda kind of rescued us. But I just think there's certain low hanging fruit like what you're describing that I think can be taken care of, and just boxing just never seems to get it right.
But I'd say 3 out of the 4 fights had impressive performances, right? Charles Conwell, I mean, it might not have been the most scintillating matchup, but I mean, he absolutely outclassed and dominated Paul Kroll. He's an interesting junior middleweight. It was the first fight of the night, so I think a lot of people either missed it or don't remember it. I thought Quentin Randall did very well against Raul Curiel. I thought the 100-90 scorecard wasn't even in the realm of reality. I thought that it was a really awkward fight, but Quentin's an awkward fighter, and I think there with him and Conceição against Muratalla, it's like, do we expect every boxer to be a power puncher and to win fights on power, or can guys be guys that fight on the outside and win points decisions? And it feels like that fight felt like a draw to me. Maybe Randall won. And then, like, we have no enthusiasm about where Curiel's career is going. It's not exciting. He misses weight. This performance wasn't good. And then you go into the Muratalla, he's moving up in weight. But I felt like also the storyline I wanted to hear was about the cuts he was sustaining. Where were the cuts coming from? Was it a head clash? Was it a punch? It looks like there's a habit with Muratalla where he gets in a habit of following guys around the ring. He doesn't cut the ring off. He's a very good fighter and very promising, but I also felt like it was propelling up Muratalla while Hobson wasn't getting some credit, where Muratalla is a guy that's known for being explosive, trapping guys and that. And then we get to the main event and it was just kind of like Lamont had his thing. He did really well. And then, Zepeda's punch volume, I thought he was on the other side of his career, and this is just what he did. But I'll say one thing: Crawford did a great analysis of comparing Zepeda to Joe Calzaghe, and it was a very
Mm,
astute observation because
yeah.
it's kind of like those comparisons that I always dream of because there's no like often comparisons are like pick a Mexican fighter, we'll give you another Mexican fighter. And Calzaghe to Zepeda is pretty accurate. They just throw a lot of punches. Technique is kind of secondary, but they're better than they think. And I thought the counterpunching of Roach would be the story of this fight. And it just feels like that volume. What would you compare it to? A tidal wave? It hit Roach and he kind of got water in his lungs and he never really figured out how do you do this with sea like what is it? Salt water in your lungs. Like it doesn't feel good. You got it in your nose and your eyes. And it just feels like he got bamboozled by an onslaught of something and he was never able to right the ship.
Yeah, actually, I think that's a great, analogy. I think my impression of it was Roach never really seemed comfortable, and he almost seemed surprised by the volume, which I almost feel like, okay, well, how's that even possible? Because that's all I'm not saying that's all Zepeda is known for, but that's first, second, and third on the list. And, uh, if you're not ready for it, then that's, shame on you, shame on your team. But even if it's more than you expected, even if you got some water in your lungs, you can't show that. And frankly, even if he did, I felt like the plan or whether it was plan A or plan B, what the plan should have been after the third round when Zepeda really started piling it on. I think you could argue that Roach maybe won the first two rounds. Round three, Zepeda just flipped a switch and never stopped pretty much the rest of the fight. What the plan should have been after the third or fourth round for Roach is, and I think Sergio Mora made a comment about uh, not not punching with Zepeda or not trying to match his output. I actually disagree with it because I think I'm not saying that you punch with him, and I'm not saying you try to go one for one with him. But I think what Roach did wrong was he didn't move enough. He allowed himself to sort of stay a little too stationary, made for an easier target for Zepeda, but also didn't let his hands go when he should have, particularly combination punching. And that was mentioned on the broadcast, but I think that was kind of my whole point. If you're only getting off one punch for every five of his, and you saw how he was taking those punches, those few punches that you're landing, and they're only coming one at a time. I mean, we know how that movie goes. Like that's we know what's gonna. I mean, as great of a fighter as Roach is, um, we've seen what Zepeda has done in the past, and I still think he deserves credit for fighting a fight that I don't know that anybody expected he would, um, at this level with Roach after, those tough fights that he's had and after a year off. Um, I just feel like there was something off with Roach in terms of the plan or in terms of his reaction to all that volume.
I want to speak to a little bit of like what I know. I know the Roach family a little bit, and I'm not saying I know anything more than the other man, but I do think in his mind, he feels he's a three division world champion. And it feels like, the system or whatever, the two draws. Yes, he got a name, but I think you enter fights with a little bit of depression. Like, man, I should be at a different stage at my career. And I think that there was a little bit of, oh man, this is a hard fight, and I think that what I saw was almost like the trauma of those two previous fights and feeling as though things didn't go his way. It kind of snowballed. And I think also, like a lot of times, this is just my belief. I think we fall in love with the technical. And sometimes it's just as simple as a guy hits you really hard and he's consistently throwing, and it's just really tough. Like you're just in there and you know what he's doing, but it's hard. And I think there was a little bit of Zepeda was really on. He was throwing. He's reckless, and it's just a little hard to adjust. And fan in the comments makes a good point. He said it's because Zepeda was bigger. I mean, there might be some truth to that, right? Because the Roach's best performances have been against guys that are either about his height or a little smaller than him. So there could have also been that element that he's been fighting guys, Hector Luis Garcia, um, Tank, Pitbull. They're a certain size, and now you're in there with Zepeda. He's bigger. I think him and Hobson, not to keep going to my boy Hobson, but I think they both hit harder than people think. So I think Zepeda, it doesn't look like he's a puncher kind of, but I think when he hits you, you're like, man, that kind of stings. And I think there was an element of that where it's like he's hitting you with a bunch of baseballs all night, and you're like, I can take getting hit by a 70-mile-an-hour baseball, but it's just annoying. And that's kind of what I think happened. I don't think it was. I think that knowing Lamont Senior, I think the game plan was probably fine. It's just boxing's a physical sport, and sometimes it's hard to enact what you want to do.
Yeah, and I mean, I'll offer a counterpoint in the sense that I don't necessarily agree with a few pounds making it that big of a difference. I think there are guys that can punch, and they talk about, can you carry the punch to the next weight and all that. Of course, there are limits, but I think generally speaking, what you just said, that was a much bigger story, much bigger storyline in the fight, in the sense that you're just talking about dealing with a fighter that lays that kind of volume on you for the first time. I mean, Roach has never fought anybody like Zepeda before. I think that we can say that confidently. Um, and even if you know that it's coming, you get that water in your lungs, and it's a whole different story. You got to figure a lot out. And Roach had a couple of decent rounds at the end. He did let his hands go a little bit more. Um, he seemed, and maybe it was just because it was a last ditch effort and he didn't have any other choice. But he did seem to decide, this is what this is, if I'm going to unlock it, this is the key. And ultimately, it was too little, too late. But I think, at the end of the day, if he'd have fought that kind of fight throughout, I don't know if the outcome would have been different, but I think it would have certainly given him a better chance.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's boxing's hard, right? And I equate boxing to like joining the military and a bomb goes off. You can always tell people, okay, the bomb's going to go off, or when you go to war, someone's going to get shot next to you. But then you see it and you're like, oh my God, this deeply traumatized me. This is the guy that I was next to. And now there's people over there giggling that they did it to him. It's like, that's a fight too. It's like we can have all these. And I think that I always say this, but we romanticize the technique. Yes, technique is important, but when you get in there with a guy like Zepeda, he's firing bullets. He's going to put pressure on you. He's going to hit you on hips, elbows, arms, shoulders. And it's a level of mental physicality or mental pressure, physical pressure. And then just how does your body hold up? You could be mentally well, but it's like he's a SAT test for a lot of different boxing skills. He tests you mentally, physically, and with the skills. And I mean, there's maybe an argument to be made, is Lamont best suited at 135? I'm not sure I have the answer for it, but there could be, you know, maybe Zepeda's the best guy at 35 with Muratalla. I can't think of the champions currently right now. The division's completely changing, but with Muratalla leaving, and I'm rambling, but like maybe Lamont's a guy who fights better at catchweights at 33 or 30. But I think it just asks questions of Lamont moving forward. And obviously he had that big fight with Davis, so we talk more about him. But I think the other thing is I expected Zepeda to not look so good. I thought he was on the downside. He has a physical style. He wins an outright world championship, and now I don't know, he's kind of starting to become a Hall of Fame trajectory fighter. It's a little premature to say that, but it looks like he could. Would we dare say, let's clickbait it, Could he be a Mexican fighter that could maybe get like half a Canelo's fan base if he keeps up this type of performance?
Yeah. How old is he? Let's check and see. I'm trying to remember.
30.
He's 30, so he's, you know, in theory, he's still got some time left. Oh, hey, we got Lily.
Yes, I think it definitely made a difference in the outcomes. I think Lamont thought I was just going to be that one-dimensional fighter, and we added a couple of things to our repertoire. So I think that definitely made the difference.
Yeah, you fought Shakur Stevenson and also now Lamont Roach. How do you think those styles prepare you for a potential fight against someone like Abdullah Mason?
No, son estilos parecidos. Creo que actualmente está entre Shakur y entre Lamont. Es un joven muy fuerte, con muchas herramientas boxísticas. Y creo que también será un buen combate.
I think there's some similarities there. I think Abdullah is somewhere between Lamont and Shakur. He's got a very strong young fighter, but I think it'll be a great fight.
Who does he think is the more challenging between those two?
You mean
Between Murataya and Murataya. Murataya es un gran peleador, como he dicho, ahorita lo ha demostrado con estas dos grandes peleas, pero es un gran peleador.
I think Murataya is definitely the tougher of the two. He's been for example last couple of fights, last couple of defense.
Did you watch his fight? ¿Viste su pelea en el vestidor?
Sí, estaba viendo ahí, estaba una muy buena pelea.
Camarón, en México nos quedamos cortos en el Mundial ante Inglaterra, pero el boxeo nunca falla. ¿Qué significa para ti sanar ese corazón de la gente que se ilusionaba con avanzar más en el fútbol, pero sabemos que el deporte que da gloria es el boxeo?
Así es, tú lo has dicho, aquel deporte que realza México es el boxeo, el fútbol. También soy aficionado, es un buen deporte.
¿A quién le vas?
Al mejor equipo, a Toluca.
Ah, bueno, choricero.
No, toma. Camarón. Una pelea muy fuerte. Llega Austin también es un peleador que ha estado un poquito inactivo, pero es un peleador muy fuerte, muy explosivo. Entonces creo que es una muy buena pelea.
It'll be a great combat. Kid Austin's been inactive for a little bit for a while now, but I think it would be a great fight.
¿Qué representa la victoria?
Tiene un gran significado que las palabras que hay quedan cortas para todo el trabajo que se ha hecho para obtenerlo.
Muchos campeones duermen abrazados del cinturón. ¿Cuántas noches piensas dormir abrazado del cinturón?
Sí, es un gran logro, por lo que tanto he luchado. Pero yo ahorita quiero dormir, porque 4 meses que no lo dormí. Entonces ahorita ese es mi mayor regalo. Llegar a abrazar a mis bebés. Thank you.
What was he thinking when they were about to announce that he would become world champion?
¿Qué pasaba por tu mente antes de que anunciaran la victoria?
Muchas cosas. Sabía que había hecho un gran trabajo, sabía que había hecho algunas cosas. De repente me entró el pensamiento y dije, no vaya a pasar algo raro, pero yo sabía que había ganado claramente.
Many things cross my mind. I think, obviously the win, I was anticipating the win, but then again, it crossed my mind for a second that something terrible could possibly go wrong as well too. But yeah.
Well, the open scoring no, sabíamos que íbamos ganando claramente, sabíamos los rounds que también habíamos tenido algunos detalles, pero fue una motivación el saber que íbamos bien también.
Really, I mean, we knew clearly we were winning the fight, but obviously this served the motivation towards the end.
On top of that, with open scoring in the 5th round and the 9th round, did you feel effort or power from
El quinto round y el noveno round, tú sientes que hizo que cambiara tu estrategia.
Un poquito, sabía que iba ganando bien las tarjetas. Sí, me llegué tantito de repente a desconcentrar y volví al plan de pelea, pero creo que fue algo bueno.
Well, it did. It certainly gave me a good idea where we stood, but at the same time, I know I got a little careless, so I just refocused again.
Camarón, después de la derrota ante Shakur vienen las críticas. Al final de cuentas, una derrota. Sin embargo, después de tanta crítica de algunas personas que fueron exigentes, no sabe doble el triunfo, no lo saboreas más.
Algo de lo que tengo, tanto los buenos críticas como las malas críticas, como por algo estar regresamos de la pelea de Shakur, regresamos a trabajar también, tomamos en cuenta esas críticas, las tomamos en cuenta y pues creo que se vieron reflejadas en que sí se vieron.
William, Shakur Stevenson was talking about fighting Lamont Roach. If he would have beat you in this fight, do you think tonight you did enough to get a rematch with him?
Sé que Shakur está hablando de pelear con Lamont Roach si hubiera ganado una revancha con él.
Es algo que me gustaría, donde él me diga 135, 140.
Yeah, that's something very much like 135, 140.
Eres el boxeador que más golpes conectó contra Lamont Roach. ¿Cómo lograste esto?
La condición, la gran preparación, la fortaleza física y la fortaleza mental y hacer un buen plan de trabajo.
¿Qué le dice este señor que está aquí arriba en Sinaloa? Mira, ¿quién se acerca? Y el dúo dinámico, la verdad que te vimos llorar, Panda, y también está llorando el camarón. ¿Qué puedes agregar de este enorme campeón que tiene hoy México? Acércate, por favor, aquí.
No es un dúo, es un equipo completo.
Arriba Cuba también por allá.
Hay que felicitar a Carlos Enrique Duarte, quien es también formador de camarón de amateur. Felicitar a Eric Mercado, felicitar a Darío, felicitar a Jorge, a Guillo, que diario se levanta con el mismo esfuerzo, las mismas ganas, el mismo sueño de triunfar con camarón. Lo hemos logrado, no nos desesperamos en la última pelea. La gente nos criticó, nos dijo, pero mira, aquí estamos y es gracias a un trabajo, no un dúo, es un trabajo completo de muchísimos años, de la doctora, del chef, nutrólogo, los cambios que se hicieron, le demostró a Camarón que eran y fueron necesarios. Nunca en un momento respiró por aire. Si es el Camarón que conocemos y hoy enseñó que también puede boxear, enseñó que puede hacer otros cambios, que puede hacer ajustes y que puede, más importante que nada, hacer caso.
William, vi que te dieron el anillo, ¿cómo se siente recibir?
No me lo sé poner, nunca había puesto anillos. Mi primer anillo, creo que es un gran gesto, un gran símbolo del trabajo y pues nunca había puesto un anillo. Pero ahí está.
Enseña el anillo, sin albur, ya sabes cómo. Menos mal, ahí está. Un mensaje final para toda la raza, porque independientemente de que paralizaste México, recuerda que hay muchos paisanos aquí que viven y que no pueden salir de México, quisieran ir, y tú les trajiste un pedazo de México.
Hace años, cuando yo debuté en Estados Unidos, yo venía con un sueño, que hace años también mi papá vino aquí de mojado a cumplir ese sueño americano. Ahora, después de trabajar varios años, vengo a cumplir ese sueño, pero como boxeador, coronarme campeón del mundo en Las Vegas.
¿Qué le dices a las personas que le han pasado difícil, los indocumentados aquí en Estados Unidos, a toda la raza que paga el boxeo?
Pues no solo a los indocumentados, sino a todos los americanos, de que los mexicanos venimos aquí a trabajar, venimos aquí a triunfar y pues a ganarnos el pan de cada día, no venimos a hacerle daño a nadie. Entonces, aquí venimos a triunfar y a cumplir ese sueño.
Gracias, Camarón.
Felicidades. Gracias. Gracias.
Vamos.
No, say hi to the chat.
Huh?
Say hi to the chat. They're live.
Warm, how you doing?
Say hi.
Hi, everybody.
Norm Frauenheim, one of our TGF contributors, and Lily Ulloa, right here. There we go. How are you guys?
Tú sabes, vamos a México.
Let's get here.
He said he can't hear you guys.
Oh, all right.
But yeah, let me see. Hold on, let me turn that around again.
I don't know who decided on the press conference here, but it's not a good spot. Excuse me, guys. Not this way. Not this way. Safety. Thank you. Thank you. Right behind you. We're just trying to set up some cases here. There we go. Excuse me, sir. Right behind you.
As an underdog.
Can you guys just move this over there, please?
He needs us to move.
I've never seen a press conference happen right here. Can you guys skip that way a little?
It's just the way it is.
Every boxing match
That you should like this.
it's never been on this stage. You know how many boxing
you haven't
matches
been
I've
here.
done? How many boxing?
I could have been.
I've done every boxing match in this venue, brother. Never.
Part of the next MVP show.
Excuse me, guys.
Se nos está poniendo medio, como decimos en mi rancho, medio mamón.
Sí, ya.
Viva Cuba. Oh no, we're looking for like a catch someone to prove how much does this fight book.
No, pues es una gran victoria. Independientemente de si bueno, mencionan, no veníamos de favoritos, pero salimos a hacer nuestro trabajo.
It didn't matter. I came in the dogs. We did our work with nothing.
Do you think that people mistake your quietness and calmness for weakness?
No, bueno, alguna gente sí lo confunde. A mí siempre me ha gustado ser un boxeador serio y hablar.
So that's just why I had a character. My character just not talk.
Now, I want to talk about your engine. You never stopped letting off the pressure. You kept going. You had something through. Talk about what happened in your training camp that let you have that agility.
Hacemos muchas cosas. Hacemos un campamento largo, un campamento de 12 semanas. Trabajamos fuerza, trabajamos técnica, trabajamos rehabilitación, psicólogos. Entonces, de ahí se ve el resultado.
We do a lot of things. It's a 12-week training camp. We work strength, we work conditioning. For 12 weeks. That's where the result.
Now, this is a testament to all the work that you guys put in together in camp. Talk about how proud you are of him.
You know, a lot of people only see me behind the scenes. I got an entire team behind me. There's guys that meet me here, they're at the gym doing mitts, they're getting up, running with them, and they're working. And, you know, this is my fifth world champion, but this is probably the one that I feel the most because to me, he's a 15-year-old kid that came and believed in us. He believed in a promoter that nobody knew, a manager that made tortillas, a meat cutter. And here we are in Las Vegas on the biggest stage of our life. A lot of work, you know, a lot of work, a lot of dedication. But again, it's not only me, but I declare and decree in Jesus' name that August 1st, no one was going to beat William Zepeda. And that's how it was today. He proved that he can box. He proved that he still has the stamina, that he's just not a fool that just comes forward. He's a guy that can move laterals. He was used to giving people a style they liked, you know, and we got to a point, you know, where we were beaten, you know. So we got to, as a team, we had to sit down and learn. All of us had to learn. But I'm extremely proud. Mom, this is for you. When I left my house at 16 years old, they never came back, and I said I would never come back until I conquered what I've done. And today, I can retire from boxing.
Now, this is such an emotional victory. So, how are you guys going to celebrate now?
Descansando, disfrutando a mis hijos.
Just resting and enjoy my family, my children.
Congratulations. Enjoy the rest of your night.
We're going to Disneyland.
Thank you so much. Congratulations.
Son stickers para ti. No, son para ti. Perdón, ay, pues, te estoy pisando.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm not trying to be rude. Weird.
You can try a little harder, like a little bit harder to not be rude. I think you could try a little harder.
I mean,
But you a little bit.
Thank you for that, Lily.
I love it. I love it this time of year in Las Vegas.
I mean,
That bitch. He's like, who do you think that is? That bitch.
how many
Everybody was waiting for him.
press conferences has he done? I want to know
I
exactly.
know. Let me ask him again how many press conferences he's done. I didn't think I heard it.
Hey, do you have a few minutes?
Lance, say hi to the chat, Lance.
Lance, what's going on? How are you?
It was a great fight. Honestly, how emotional it got. Amazing. It was really cool to see them get emotional in the ring. And then after, we did an interview with Panda right after, and he did get super emotional. I will be doing uploading that soon. And just a great fight. What did y'all think?
Yeah, well, Lukey had to jump, but both he and I thought the fight was entertaining. Kind of helped offset the first 3 fights, which weren't fantastic.
I know, yeah.
A little
I
bit
felt that.
lopsided, and as he mentioned, there were a couple of good performances, but nothing that was all that fun to watch.
Nothing that, worth raving home about that we're
Yeah,
gonna talk about in the water cooler. If I had that type of job, I wouldn't be
100%.
talking about that.
Yeah, but the
The main event
main event
delivered.
was a good one. It was worth sticking around for. And were there anything else? Was there anything else that you kind of saw with boots on the ground there, like the crowd, the
The
venue, anything
crowd
that
was
stood out?
amazing. Like they need to do more lives. I mean, more boxing events at these type of venues because then it doesn't look like an empty arena. It was awesome. The atmosphere was like a great mix of just like baddies and like these super cool like blinged out outfits, and then the Mexican fans are like with their their hats and their also their style of bling. So it was a really cool mix of like fan bases and atmosphere. I really enjoyed that. Um, I was hoping Murataya would get the knockout, but I feel like he almost stepped off the gas in the second half. And even though Conceição seemed tired to me, he didn't give, and he's a crafty vet. But I was expecting him to get like at least in the last round, like give us one last final round, and I feel like he's like, nah, like it's fine. I'm not gonna do that. And it's like, okay, fine, but it's great. I think I enjoyed, yeah, like the atmosphere a lot, and the mix of that, and I think the main event definitely delivered.
Yeah, they were saying on the DAZN broadcast that it was packed. I don't know if that meant that it was sold out, but it was definitely full. And I think you're right. The venue itself looks like a big theater. Rather than an arena, and boxing needs more of that, I think, at this level.
And then honestly, the DJ was so good. uh it felt like a club here at some point. Like the crowd was like, it felt like it was a cool experience, a cool event. It wasn't like a lot of boxing fans, a lot of boxing fans, especially at the bigger arenas. Yeah, there's music playing in between rounds, but no one's really engaging with it. Here at these type of theaters, where you can see there's like all these like balcony little areas, people are vibing and they're yelling a lot. Those are great. Honestly, I really enjoy shows like this.
Did you feel like, because Lukey and I discussed a little bit about the pacing of the show,
You
and it
couldn't
was,
hear anything, Jason. You couldn't hear anything. You couldn't
what's
hear a
that,
damn
Norm?
thing. You couldn't hear a damn thing
Oh,
in
yeah?
this arena. I mean, they tried to get us the open scoring after the fourth and eighth,
And we couldn't hear it.
but we couldn't hear
Oh,
it.
you couldn't even hear the scoring.
No, so
It
I
was
was
so
wondering.
loud.
I mean, I asked the question, of Zepeda, that did it affect the tactics, and he said no. I think the thing is useless, frankly. I've always been opposed to this open
Yeah, to
scoring.
me, it's like Lamont Roach was not fighting. To me, like he tried, like he had his moments, but to me, he wasn't really fighting in that like, oh shit, I'm losing.
Right, no, but you know what? Lamont Roach is a talented guy in the gym, I think, and talented, and he'll still be able to fight. But he doesn't have an extra gear. There's no extra gear in that skill. He can do some things, but to slow this guy down, he needed an extra gear, and he could not find it.
Well, when
No, and
Lukey
then he was getting his head popped back, fucking head dispenser. It was nice, and to the body
compared
too,
it.
the angles
Say that again?
I was disappointed, actually.
by Roach.
Yeah.
Ooh.
I was a little bit too. I felt like there was more he could have done. There was meat on the bone.
Yeah,
Lukey
I
compared it to-
thought, the two draws, and he was very cocky yesterday at the weigh-in, saying like, somebody asked him, well, you're going to win, and how are you going to win? And he said, any way I want to. Well, I don't.
He didn't. I don't think he gave it like that much of a go, So we're gonna go before the country workers have a heart attack on us, and then I have to, let's not do that.
This will be the real main event, right? When you start
Yeah,
throwing
exactly.
names.
I'm like, I'm not without getting paid.
All right, well, be safe.
Put me on an undercard.
If you want to jump back into the chat, I'll throw an invite back to you, but we might be wrapping it up soon. Both you guys be safe, and thank you for all your hard work.
Always.
Sounds good, Jason. I'll be uploading everything later. Bye, Jay. Thank you. Jane's the best. She's great. All right, I'll talk to you later.
All right, catch you soon.
Bye.
All right. So that's going to do it for our interviews for tonight. We may get Lily back with us shortly, but I want to answer any questions you have, address anything that you guys want to talk about before we go. I will mention Justin Hicks. I did see your note from earlier today, and I really appreciate the sentiment. Thanks for subscribing and for the kind words. Let's see here. Fan says, I'm surprised Team Roach thought Zepeda was one-dimensional. That is bad on the team, not Roach. Yeah, I agree. I mean, Zepeda, I guess if you want to paint it with the broadest brush possible and say Zepeda's one-dimensional in the sense that he's a volume puncher, okay. But he changed levels. He changed pacing. I actually thought he was a little bit more patient than he has been in past fights. He wasn't just randomly letting his hands go and throwing at volume for the sake of volume punching. I thought he made some really nice pivots to get out of trouble or to get out of harm's way after landing his punches on a number of occasions. And I thought he cut the ring off fairly well against a guy who I would have imagined not having too many problems getting out of that. But yeah, I think if anything, Roach and his team have to go back and look and see kind of what went wrong there, because again, I don't know exactly what the plan was. I feel like there were some things that they could have done even in the midst of the fight, having seen what they'd seen. It just felt like there was more movement that Roach could have done as far as getting around the ring. Could have let his hands go more often, and especially with the combination punching. And of course, it's easier said than done. Zepeda, he's on you. He's a wet blanket. I get it. And it's not something that, I mean, he's a southpaw. I'd be interested to know who was in his camp, who he sparred with, because how do you find a guy like William Zepeda to any number of sparring partners that could replicate what he does? I don't know that that's possible. So that's maybe makes the whole proposition that much more difficult. But Anthony, our guy Anthony, another the Good Fight contributor, Anthony Cox, says, weird plan from Roach. He had zero answers and didn't seem to have the wrinkles in his game to adjust. Far too flat-footed. I think that's a different way of saying kind of what I said. So I agree completely. Robert Rowan says Roach seemed to have given up quite early. Maybe given up is a little bit of a strong take, but at the very least, he just seemed like a bit of a deer in the headlights. He seemed like he didn't know what direction to go at a certain point in the fight. And rather than kind of unload the kitchen sink or even just fall back on certain tools that are his strengths, he just sort of went into a bit of a shell. And I don't think we've seen that before from Roach. Let's see. Oh yeah, Fan, we're talking about the weight again. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, this is just my personal opinion. I think you start talking about 10 pounds here and there. Yeah, you're going to get bigger fighters, but at the end of the day, fighting, boxing, technique, will, any number of other elements, I think, that go into a fight, any kind of matchup, it's always going to beat 5 pounds here, 10 pounds there. Yes, the weight can make a difference. And then at some point, of course, it goes without saying that, you you lose something once you start getting to 15 or whatever percentage of pounds, especially at those lower weights. A few pounds can make more of a difference than they can at a higher weight. But Bob Traeger, Bob's joined us. This is great. Good to have you with us, Bob. And then fan mentions Roach reminds me of Jordan White versus Rene Tellez-Garon. I don't remember that fight. You'll have to explain in what way you mean that. But I will say, while we're getting a few more who've trickled in here, and we'll see if Lily rejoins us again. I want to go back and address that Raul Curiel, Quentin Randall card, because look, we all have bad days, and some of us are better at what we do than others, and you know, I've got a certain amount of grace for just about everybody, but the card from Patricia Morse-Jarman, 100-90, in favor of Curiel was maybe an abomination is too strong of a word, but it was ridiculous. It was. I tweeted out a little bit earlier. If you're a scoring official and you can't find a single round for Randall in that fight, you shouldn't be a scoring official. There's just no reason that anyone should be able to sit and watch that fight. I understand Randall is more of a counterpuncher. I know he's not the most exciting in terms of coming forward, throwing with power, but he absolutely won 3 to 4 rounds in that fight without a doubt. Was it a hard fight to score? Yes. Did Curiel win some rounds? For sure. Is there any universe in which Randall did not win several rounds? No. And I'm not somebody who likes to, throw a lot of hot takes around, but I just think that when you've got fighters who train for weeks, oftentimes, at the expense of seeing their family, sacrificing other things, you'll have to go back and watch if you haven't already. Lukey had an interview with Randall, and he said that he did not get paid for his last 2 fights. He essentially took those fights to stay busy and put himself in a position for a fight like this. These guys put their lives on the line, and they're not getting paid. And to have a scorecard like that come in, and for anyone to try to make excuses about it, to say anything other than it's just ridiculous, and that people should start to have to answer for some of these things. It's one of the things that irks me about boxing. It's something that needs to be addressed. I don't know if there's boxing can't get out of its own way for much bigger issues, but there really should be some sort of review process, and at least more stringent review process for some of these cards that have come in that we've seen. This is not a case of somebody getting robbed. It was either going to be a draw or it's probably going to go Curiel's way anyway. The outcome, I think, is fair, but I think when we see cards like that, it just makes every fan question whether these guys are getting a raw deal or not. Fan says, DC fighters getting overwhelmed by pressure Mexicans. White was upset as a wide favorite. Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, I do think there's something to be said for, what's the old phrase? Pressure breaks. I don't remember. I don't remember the phrase off the top of my head. But the idea being, until you see a guy like Zepeda and you're in with him and you feel his punches and it keeps coming at you, you just don't know what you're up against. And that's really what it looked like, kind of went through Roach's mind tonight. Norm Frauenheim, who joined us with Lily shortly, a few minutes ago, mentioned that he was kind of disappointed in Roach. I think that's fair. And I think his team shares some of the blame for that. But at any rate, I don't think it certainly wasn't the outcome that they were hoping for or expecting, but I think even the performance itself, the way things unfolded, it just didn't go down. They did not seem to have any answers for what was happening in the ring at any point. Yeah, I think that might do it for tonight. I don't think Lily will be back with us, and I know Lukey's done for the night, so I think we might just go ahead and close it up. But we will be back next week. We just got joined by Keep Punching Entertainment. Yeah, unless anybody else has any kind of any more questions, any more comments, I'm happy to stick around and chop it up with you guys, but I don't want to hang on to dead air either. Yeah, fan mentioned, like you implied, I don't think Roach got proper sparring. And I just think in this case, I don't know how you replicate Zepeda closely enough. I don't know how you get enough guys in the ring. I don't know how you find them, let alone, get enough of them into the ring to sort of reliably replicate what Zepeda does in there. But I think at the very least, you have to go back and look and see kind of what went wrong, because Chop Gonzalez, yeah, but I mean, he's on his own track as well, and he just fought recently. But yeah, I think it's a difficult ask. But I think you can also put it on Team Roach that there should have been something more in terms of a plan B, or a more coherent reaction that would have allowed him to make a push earlier than the last couple of rounds of the fight. And again, maybe it wouldn't have made a difference, but I just think it was too little too late. And that was even after he won, maybe, again, arguably the first 2 rounds. But that was really before, I mean, the Zepeda was kind of sizing him up. He finally got his opening and started laying it on him in the 3rd round, and, kind of kept it going all the way through 10. And there just wasn't much that Roach seemed to be able to do. And also, there just wasn't the will to find another, Norm said another gear. I just think another approach even could have been an option, and that just never seemed to be there. It never seemed to be on the table. So, well, I think that'll be it then for tonight. I appreciate everybody joining us, and please come back next week. We'll do this again after the next week's fights. If you haven't already, consider subscribing, paid subscription to The Good Fight. We've got a staff of about 10 or 12. Some of the best writers, reporters, storytellers in boxing media that you're going to find. And for $10 a month, you get quite a bit of content. We've got more coming your way next week. Also consider subscribing to our YouTube page. That's free. But that actually is going to help us kind of build this thing out over time. It's a big piece for us. So you'll get all the interviews we do, any of the vignettes that we put together. There's more of those coming soon. Any Zoom interviews that we get that we can post on there as well. So just keep an eye out for that. And again, appreciate you joining us, and we will see you next week. Take care.